Hi, and welcome everybody to our podcast for the healing arts. My name is Judy Allen, and I and my business partner, Sue Johnson, are very pleased today to share with you a very special guest. Our mission with the Healing Arts podcast is to present to you the full range, the full spectrum of ways that all of us can heal, various tools and techniques that are available to all of us for the various types of healing that are needed: psychological, emotional, physical healing. Well, our special guest today is someone who's very familiar to many of us in Northeast Ohio. And he has a lot of interesting and useful information to share with us regarding his own personal experiences and regarding healing. I personally find it very interesting to note regarding our guest how someone can be successful in different fields and make a contribution in different fields. This person has served us very, very well as a public servant, working in our interest to advance our community. And for various reasons, he has made a career transition and is just as successful working in the performing arts. Sue will be asking specific questions, and at this point in time, I present to all of us listening and viewing at the Healing Arts our special guest, Mr. Peter Lawson Jones. Sue, would you begin our interview?
And you said Northeast Ohio. This buddy of mine, my little bro, he's getting known all over the country with his playwriting works and his acting works. Um, we are so proud to be a friend of his and a colleague. And one of his most recent ventures was, again, as a playwright who has had appearances of his poetic justice, excuse me. No, is that the title, Peter? Poetic?
I think are you talking about the Bloodless Jungle or the Family
No,
Line?
the most recent one.
The Phoenix Society.
Phoenix Society, Lord help me. I haven't gotten rattled by, we had little snafu getting on the air. Now, it's interesting that of the plays you wrote, the Bloodless Jungle was more legal oriented.
I'd say politically oriented.
Okay, politically oriented. And this play, the Poetic Justice,
the Phoenix
Society. Peter, don't mind me. I will get it right eventually. How did it happen that you selected this topic, which I'll let you share what it's about? How did that come to you as a playwright?
Well, the first thing I'd like to do is to thank Judy for that wonderful introduction, probably undeserved on my part, but I really appreciated the kind words that you offered. And it's always wonderful to be in the presence of the inestimable Sue Johnson, who I call her my big sister. She calls me her little bro. So we've supported each other over the years in our mutual projects. And it's just wonderful to have a friend like Sue. Actually, when it came to the Phoenix Society, I did not pick the topic. The topic was picked for me. I was
by a person or a situation?
I will share with you that in December, I believe it was 2021, representatives from the Life Exchange Center, which is a nonprofit agency located on Kinsman Avenue in the city of Cleveland, that works with men and women who are struggling with and endeavoring to recover from mental health and substance abuse challenges. And they had received a grant, and they wanted a play to be written to talk about their mission, although I didn't use their name, the name of that agency in the play, nor of any of the people that are on the staff or that they serve, but they wanted a play that really described for the general public their mission, how they went about it, the travails that the men and women they're endeavoring to assist are experiencing. And so that was going to be the basis for the play, whoever was going to write it. So a couple of friends of mine who were on the board knew that I had written a couple of plays and asked if I would be interested in accepting the commission and writing the play. Now, frankly, my initial thoughts were no, and I tried to direct them elsewhere to other playwrights I know, for whom playwriting is the primary thing they do. It's not the primary thing that I do. It's one of a few things, but it's certainly not the endeavor, the vocation that takes up most of my time. Because as many in the audience might know, I'm also a lawyer. I have a community engagement consulting practice. I've done consulting for a arts and cultural organization, events and fundraisers and that kind of thing. But playwriting, I've written a total of 3 plays in the 70 years that I've been in existence on this earth. So I don't consider playwriting at all one of my primary endeavors or activities. So I tried to direct them to somebody else to ask to see who else might be interested in writing it. And I was reluctant for a couple of reasons to undertake the assignment. The first thing is the 2 plays I had written up to that point, I wrote about, I can say almost personal issues or the things that really engaged me, meant a lot to me during my life, things I had thought deeply about because they were more personal. And this wasn't going to be that kind of play. It wasn't going to be something that sprung from my heart and soul, because that's an issue that I've grappled with, or family members have grappled with on a regular and consistent basis. Certainly as an elected official, I had a significant appreciation both for those who were trying to overcome mental illness, who were trying to overcome substance abuse addiction, and for the wonderful men and women and agencies and organizations that try to assist them in triumphing over these challenges. So, and then of course, I don't think there's any family in America that hasn't been touched to some extent by mental illness or substance abuse, and my family is certainly not unlike the vast majority of American families in that regard. So I did have some experience, some knowledge, maybe more than most. However, I didn't think that I was necessarily equipped to write the play. The other thing was that there was a deadline for it. I'd always kind of written my plays and finished them at my leisure. When I had time to write, I would write. But this one had a deadline because they wanted to have the play written in time to have it performed in May during a mental health awareness month. So I only would have 4 or 5 months to write the play. A friend of mine I ran into, I think it was at the Barnes and Noble bookstore, and she was on the board at the Life Exchange Center, and she said to me, she said, "Peter, are you going to write this play or not?" And I gave her all the reasons, just like I gave you, why I was reticent to do so. And she said, "Peter, just write the darn play." And the commission, frankly, was not insubstantial. So I thought about it and I said, okay, I'll take the challenge. And I certainly viewed it as that. The best decision I made when it comes to writing this play was this. I asked the executive director whether or not I could interview on tape, videotape both some of the men and women who worked there, because all of the workers, all of the staff, with the exception of the executive director, were fellow travelers. They had been through the same challenges as those they were assisting. So I asked if I could meet with some of the staff, if I could interview some of the staffers, and if I could interview some of the clients or team members, I believe they called them. I probably interviewed 8 or 9 people. I had at least 10 hours of interviews. And that's what put me in the position, mentally, psychologically, and emotionally, where I could not only write a play that I think was true to the mission of Life Exchange Center, and I think that fairly and compassionately chronicled the challenges that the men and women they serve are facing. But I was actually able to finish the play before April, in time for the play to be rehearsed and successfully staged at Playwrights Local. One interesting challenge that I was asked to undertake for the play was that many of the staff, some of the staffers and those who receive services at the Life Exchange Center wanted to be in the play. So I had to come up with and write scenes that where I could that were set and designed for these actors or amateur actors, many of whom had never performed on stage before, to be able to do so. And let me say that what a wonderful surprise and gift it was to see how they flourished under the direction of Terrence Spivey as actors. And so many people came up to me later when I told them this, they asked me about one actor or another. I said, oh, well, there's somebody who received services at Life Exchange Center. They've never been in a play before. People were stunned because they took to those roles like fish to water. And I think to some extent because of the truthfulness of the stories that were being told. I know, for example, there was one man who told me how he would be in the most inclement weather, no matter what the weather was like, out to get a fix. Didn't matter if it was raining, snowing, etc. So I took that idea and I embellished it and made it into a very funny but poignant monologue. Another woman had told me about a time when she and her friends were getting high outside of their apartment in the projects, and her friends were sitting on the stoop, and she had climbed up into a tree. So when the security forces busted everybody, they got everybody but her. So there were a number of kind of stories like that I was able to again massage, utilize a little of my playwriting ability, and just create extraordinary moments. Most of the people I interviewed were women, and virtually all of them had the same story: sexual abuse at an early age, masked by drug use and alcohol,
Yes.
and then the onset of mental illness.
Yes.
I would say if I interviewed 7 or 8 women, all but maybe 1 or 2 had this very same pattern story. Now, in my previous play, The Bloodless Jungle, I had a scene where the wife, the lead female character, talked about having been sexually abused by sexually assaulted actually by and raped by her professor at college. So I didn't really want to tell that kind of story again. And fortunately, there was somebody on staff at the Life Exchange Center, a gentleman that I interviewed who had been an Iraq War veteran. He was a medic. He told me some incredibly powerful, moving, and in many respects, depressing stories about what he experienced as a medic. And he came back, he never struggled with substance abuse, never became addicted to heroin or some of the other drugs, that cocaine that many soldiers become addicted to, but he came back with a severe case of PTSD, severe case of post-traumatic stress syndrome. And so I thought, wow, let my lead character be a male who had gone to war, and this time I put him in Afghanistan, who had witnessed the horrific killing of his best friend in Afghanistan, and who began to assuage his pain with heroin use. And so the play is about this war veteran whose wife died while he was away in Afghanistan. He comes home, he has a daughter who's in junior high age that he has to take care of, and his struggles to get clean, and how this group, that's very similar to the groups they have, the peer groups they have at the Life Exchange Center, the role they play in helping him get clean.
Mhm.
although it's always a day-to-day challenge. One thing that was affected me was that from between the time that I interviewed the staff members of staff and those who were receiving services at the Life Exchange Center, at least two of them, this is in the space of 2 months, had relapsed. So I had to deal with the fact that relapse is common, and that was both in terms of the lead character and also in when I had two scenes with these peer group therapy sessions. And in the second scene, there's an empty chair where there had been a person in the first scene. Why? Because that individual had relapsed.
Now, your play is, I mean, it just targets the issues that people struggling with mental health challenges, particularly, drugs of all sorts are dealing with. By the end of the play, you do have some hope and upliftment.
Absolutely, absolutely, and
of the
and
character.
I felt it was important because I knew both in terms of the potential audience, because I knew many people who were struggling with these issues, particularly during the first run of the play, were going to see it. So I wanted to give them some hope. And it's also the other plays I've written, at the end of the play, there's question marks. I don't like to tie up all the ends in a nice red
Yes.
ribbon and bow. But I departed from that a little bit significantly in this play. However, one of the last things the character references the fact that this is an ongoing struggle.
Right, of course. Lifelong.
Day by day. And so I still leave with the audience the possibility that he could very well relapse. At the end of the play, he's got a great job. He's reconnected in the right way with his daughter and his mother, because the daughter had been living with his mother while he was away in Afghanistan after his wife died. So there's a rapprochement within the family. However, that question mark remains there because that's a real issue. That's a reality. Will he stay sober?
Right. Now,
We don't know.
in your work with the Life Enrichment Center, can
Life Exchange Center.
Life Exchange, boy, I am having trouble with
Life Exchange Center and the Phoenix Society.
You are so patient. The Life Exchange Center.
Hey, Sue, I need grace from time to time, so I better be patient.
Yeah, can anybody use its services? Is it a community group where people can make contact if you tell us a phone number?
I don't have the phone number, but it's available on the internet and in phone books. The Life Exchange Center on Kinsman Avenue.
On Kinsman. And the executive director is?
They have a new executive director now, Darlene Darby Baldwin.
Oh, she's right. Okay.
Who used to perform at Caramel.
Right, yes.
As a matter of fact, Darlene was in the original cast of the play.
Okay. Now, and one of the things, the power of your play shows how mental health issues can be addressed through the arts. It's one thing that we have all of the clinical ways in which people can connect with resources for their mental health, but our project is working to show people how the arts can help deal with mental health challenges that they are experiencing, and hopefully make people feel better in what they're going through. And one of the other things that our part of our role, Judy and mine, and our Wake Up and Live team, is to show that mental health challenges are, quote, out of the closet. In my generation and a little bit beyond, you just did not talk and address and deal with mental health issues. So we are happy to add our little bit to show how mental health challenges are out in the open, out in the public. People can get help. We're helping to, like your play helps reduce stigma associated with mental health challenges by showing your characters how real they are, because you have connected with them on a very deep level in this play, to show them as humans with frailties, with strengths. So I know you as a person, as an actor. My God, you're a heck of an actor. And I know that playwrights and actors bring some of their previous experiences and themselves to various roles. How did you do that? Reach such deep passion in creating realistic characters? I know you did interviews, research, and had actual people, but to translate that into building believable everyday characters that all of the people viewing it can relate to.
Well, a couple of things. And one, I cannot overstate the value of those interviews.
Mhm.
Um, those interviews were both inspiring and heartbreaking. And so when it was time to write the play, I didn't experience the kind of artistic blocks that that most writers do at some point as they're trying to complete a poem, a novel, a documentary, whatever it might be, a play. And so I was kind of spared that. What's kind of interesting was that at the same time I was writing the play, I was spending a lot of time in Pittsburgh on set because we were filming A Man Called Otto.
Oh, yes.
And what I would do is I would take all of my materials with me up to Pittsburgh, and I would, after I was done on set, I would go back to the hotel room and I would write. And there were several days where I can remember writing entire scenes in one sitting, because I just had, and I think any good writer also outlines their scenes, the approach they want to take, lines everything up so that you can write fluidly. You know where you're going, you know where the story's going. So I've always found it important to me to kind of outline things, almost the way you would a speech.
Right.
And so
right.
Those things help me. But the other thing is this: I believe that everybody is facing some kind of challenge that they're trying to push themselves through.
That's life, yes.
And if one understands that, it's not hard to create sympathetic, realistic characters. It's just a matter of substituting one challenge and its uniqueness for another.
Mhm.
My parents wanted me to be a physician, and if I had become a physician, which was not in the cards because I was never going to take biochemistry and advanced biology and advanced chemistry, that was not going to happen. But if I had become a physician, there's only one field of medicine that interested me, and that's psychiatry.
Mhm.
And being an only child, I had plenty of time to kind of understand my motivations, why I did what I did, and all of that has helped me as an actor and as a playwright tell believable, credible stories.
Now we are beginning, I think, to get closer to the end of this guest interview. But now, if people want to learn more about this play or any of your other works, or
Yeah,
to contact you
yeah,
about the play and producing it.
Yeah, the couple of things.
Okay.
I keep things pretty simple in terms of how one can contact me. My website is peterlawsonjones.com. And I remind people there are no hyphens between names. It's a first name, middle name, and last name. peterlawsonjones.com. And if somebody wants to reach out to me via email, it's peterlawsonjones@gmail.com. So
Okay.
it's pretty simple. peterlawsonjones.com, the website, peterlawsonjones@gmail.com to reach me via email.
And if and I'm going to turn this over to Judy, if viewers wanted to learn more about producing the play, would they need to contact the Life Exchange Center?
No, they
Or could they
contact me. I own the copyright.
Good, okay.
But one of the things I said I would do is for every production of the play, I'm going to make sure that something goes to the Life Exchange Center.
Of course, yes. So now, as I'm going to toss this over to Judy, because your description of being a playwright and tying into this mental health challenge, there was an emphasis on drugs for this particular play.
Well, you had drugs and mental. Oftentimes there's a dual diagnosis.
Of course.
I'd say the majority of people struggling with either substance abuse or mental health issues are it's a combination of both. It's a duality, and often one has led to the other. So they're often intertwined. So
exactly.
I like to think that the focus of the play was both mental health and substance abuse.
Well, yeah, and it's almost, in my opinion, this is Sue Johnson, it's almost impossible to have a substance abuse issue without it being part of a mental health challenge.
I agree with that.
Yes. So from my end, thank you, my dearest little brother, Peter. And Judy, if you can take us out for the end of this broadcast, which I hope people will view tremendously, we'll be thrilled. So Judy.
Thank you, Sue. And I echo Sue's thanks for Peter's words, his comments, his talents, his energy, applying himself for the good of our community and applying himself so tremendously in many different ways. Peter, on behalf of Sue, I extend right now an invitation to come back and update us on some of your projects, some of your thinking about the good of our community, about our arts community and general community. So I extend to you that invitation. And we only have a minute or two left. So at this point in time, I thank our viewers, our listeners for joining us for this specific podcast for the healing arts. And please come back again regularly to see and hear the wealth of subject matter experts and professional performing artists sharing their thinking with us about the topic of healing and providing us with tools and techniques that might assist you and all of us with the specific issues that we wrestle with. So at this point in time, on behalf of our special guest, Mr. Peter Lawson Jones, and my business partner, Sue Johnson, we wish you well and we look forward to seeing you next time on The Healing Arts.
Thank you. See you soon. Come back.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, well, we've only got 2 minutes. I can't find the recording button to stop the recording.
So we've got 2 minutes left?
Yeah.
Well, that's odd.
Okay.